Firstly, we can discuss what a 3D shape is. What does the D stand for? Well, that's dimensions, and a 3D shape has 3 dimensions. It has a height, it has a width, and it has a depth. So all 3D shapes have 3 dimensions. And for height, we can separate our hands vertically, and for width, we can separate our hands horizontally, and for depth, we can separate our hands forward. We start with our first 3D shape, which you can see here. And to help us remember the name, we can think of a football. And when we score a goal playing football, we can celebrate and shout, sphere. And we can see the word here because the 3D shape's name is a sphere. So let's practice that. So I'll go first. We go sphere. And now you'll go. And then I'll go again. You go sphere. And you'll go. To remember this 3D shape, we have an ice cream in a cone, and we can pretend to lick an ice cream twice and say cone. And we can see cone here. So let's have a go. Me first and then you. I'm going to lick and say cone. You'll go. And again. Cone. You'll go. For our next 3D shape, we can think of Smarties. And we have Smarties in this cylinder. So we can pretend to shake our Smarties into our hand and say cylinder. And there's our cylinder word for there. So let's have a go. I'm going to shake Smarties and say cylinder. You'll go. And I'm going to shake Smarties into my hand and say cylinder. And it's your go. For this 3D shape, we can think of a die or more than one, and we have dice. So we can pretend we're playing a game and shake dice in our hand and let them go to remember the cube 3D shape. So I'm going to go first again and say cube and shake my dice, and you'll go. And then I'm going to say cube, shake my dice, and it's your go. For this 3D shape, we can think of a robot. And another name for a robot is a droid. And we can pretend to be a droid. But this shape isn't called a droid, it's called a cuboid. So I'll go first, and you've got to do your robot actions and say cuboid. You'll go. And again, I'm going to go cuboid. You'll go. For this 3D shape, we travel to Egypt and we have a pyramid, and we can form a point with our hands for a pyramid, as we can see here. Right, this pyramid has a square on its base. At the bottom of the shape, there is a square, so we can draw a square in the air. So we have square, and it's on its base. It's at the bottom. So to remember base, we can think of a baseball and throwing a baseball to a base to get someone out. So it's a square based. So there's a D on the end of it. So square, based, and then we have pyramid. Usually just called a pyramid. So let's say square based pyramid with the actions. So me first, square, based, pyramid. Now you go. So we have another pyramid for our next 3D shape. So we see pyramid here, but this time on the bottom of the shape we have a triangle, and we can draw a triangle in the air, and then we need to say R, so it's triangular, 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 and we can see triangular here. And then base, we can throw our baseball and add a D on the end of it, triangular based, and then we have our pyramid. So triangular based pyramid. Repeat after me again then. So we go triangular based pyramid. You'll go. We can also just say triangular pyramid and forget about the based, but full name triangular based pyramid. Another name for this 3D shape is a tetrahedron. a hard name to remember. We can think of a fish called a tetrafish. And we can add the action of a fish swimming for tetrahedron. Right, repeat after me. Me first. We go tetrahedron. Y'all go. Now we move on to a different category of 3D shapes after our two pyramids. We need to think of this shape as a prison, and you can pretend to hold prison bars like you're trapped. It's a prison, so you can think of prisoners being trapped in the center of this 3D shape. But it's not known as a prison, it's known as a prism, spelt P-R-I-S-M. We look at the front of this prism and we see a triangle. So we've got our triangle stop sign, and we can draw a triangle in the air. There's a triangle, and it looks like the triangle's been stretched out. So we've got our triangle, and we can add our R again, so triangular, a triangular, and then we add our prism on the end of it. This is a triangular prism, so triangular and then prism. So me first and then you, please. We've got a triangle R prism. You'll go. Let's review our objective to name 3D shapes, and our step to success is the same as our learning objective, and hopefully you can say now say number 1, I can name a 3D shape. For example, we look at our ice cream and lick ice cream twice, and we know that that shape is a cone. Or we look at a 3D shape and realize it's a prism, and look at the front of it and it's got a triangle on it, so it's a triangle R prism. Right, click on the 3D shapes describe link below to learn more and describe 3D shapes in more detail. This has been a Teaching Alive short video taken from themed units aimed at learners aged 7 to 11. Throughout our videos, we use pictures and suggest actions for teaching points. So please join in with us to support learning and have some fun. For more information on the Teaching Alive project and to be shown to learn and to practice more, visit teachingalive.co.uk.